Hey Loud House fans, Taurean Smith-Partee here, and today is actually Halloween Day. You're probably expecting me to do a Loud House editorial or a Loud House review, but I got something that might interest you. You might end up pissing your pants. I've got one hell of a scary story to actually tell. I'm sure some of you all have heard of a banned or deleted episode called Enough is Enough. This is something I actually heard from other social medias and even when I researched it, because I thought this was all fan-made, when somehow really it wasn't. This was actually going to be a Loud House episode, and a banned episode too. And you know what? I'm actually grateful that they didn't actually show this on television at all. But as you might recall, that this is actually a lost episode, and it was meant to be the finale of season 3, but it was scrapped after its production was done. And I can't believe Chris was actually planning something like this. But thank God that this episode was actually lost for being too disturbing and dark for this series, because if you're a fan of the Loud House, I must tell you, this ain't no joke. Even I'm not joking about this like I normally would do when I'm reviewing a Loud House episode. And you might be asking yourself, why the fuck would this kind of episode actually air on television on a Nickelodeon kids show? Even I don't know that subject either. But if you don't want to actually hear this kind of story, it's okay, you can actually go watch something else. But if you actually want to hear this kind of scary story, well, don't say I didn't warn you. So here's how the way this episode actually started. It usually plays the actual intro, but there was nothing wrong so far. However, in the end, nobody actually went to the couch to actually watch television. It didn't act like they were there as well. So it was Lily's poo-poo. It even wasn't even there so much all. The logo was actually tamed with a different kind of color, red instead of orange. So you can actually clear that there's something definitely wrong with this episode. And so far, the actual title card actually has a black background with white frog crawling across from the left. And center it says, "Enough is enough." And even the music actually sounded low, and it was kind of a rumbling noise, like something you would actually hear from a horror game or movie. But then, so the episode actually begins with the outside view of the house, as it did sometime. The music was absent like the beginning of Brawl in the Family. It cuts to Lincoln watching television instead of playing video games like he usually does. He was just chilling out. And Lincoln says to us, "Don't you hate living with 10 sisters? Well, sometimes I do." And that's when his smile actually turned upside down. And he says, "But on rare occasion, I go a little too far. I wish that they would just leave me alone, but I can't hurt them. They're my siblings. I want to love them, but things that they do, like, set back for me." And this is where Lincoln actually sounded a little more serious than he normally usually does. And then we actually have Luann appearing with Lincoln in the next shot saying, "Hey bro, what did the platypus say before leaving the bar? Put it on my bill." Lincoln actually frowns as she is laughed. He says, "Yeah, Luann, pretty fun." And then Luann says, like, "Do you want to smell my flower?" And Lincoln says, "I'm not falling for it." And Luann actually's flower squirts Lincoln in the face before he could even finish what he was saying. And then Luann actually smashed a banana cream pie right in Lincoln's face. Lincoln goes completely crazy saying enough is enough as he grabs Luann and slams her head against her, bruising her and knocking her out. He feels so much regret saying about what have I done, but then somehow he just looks back at her and he says, "But this made me feel so much alive. For some reason, I never felt this good in a while. I know just what to do." And so much shit gets really batshit crazy from Lincoln. He gets in a fight with Lori later on, and he actually smashes the phone against her head and shattering broken pieces of glasses against her face, being cut in so many different places. Then later on, when Lynn tries to challenge him so much, he grabs his 13-year-old sister and chokes her to death. Is this getting a little dark for somebody? Because I could stop right away if you guys want me to, but for some of y'all who actually want to hear the rest, I'm going to finish it right ahead. So as scary as much as this is going to get, Lincoln actually murders Lenny with a pair of scissors, he beats Lola to death with a bat, and he actually smashes the guitar on Luna's face, and he's just about to set Lucy on fire, but somehow that never actually happens because it went to black afterwards. And it goes from 1 week later, and yet it gets really sad so much when Lily actually dies in this one. Choked on something like some kind of small toy. Lola was actually cut in the face so many multiple times. Lincoln looked around as he says, "My job is done. All I need is one more. But who is it? Yes, it must be me. There must be something I must do." And as for Lincoln not feeling too much a bit of a shame so much, well, maybe he kind of did. He grabs a long piece of a rope and then... So much all the sisters and Lincoln being dead so much. Well, except for Luann, looking a bit pale and so much blood was actually dripping down her face. She looked at all the dead, lifeless corpses and said, "This is no joke." and things are just about to get worse and a little bit so much darker. So I suggest you actually go watch something else, because let me tell you, this gets really intense right here. And it actually cuts to a black room with Lou Ann crying. Then she actually grabs a needle and prepare yourself. And she stabs her eye out with the needle, and then she grabs a kitchen knife and stabs herself in the stomach and falls to the ground and dies. And then the episode is finally over. And the question to everybody's mind is, why the fuck was this even made? And why in the hell would Chris Savino, the creator of the show, want to make this? Even I was trying to research so much myself, and I found nothing specific about this episode. And you know, once I actually read this episode, I almost was gonna stop watching The Loud House, but somehow I didn't. Because when I read this episode, I promised I wasn't actually gonna read this episode again, but somehow I just needed to do something about it. Let's face it, none of us wanted to see this episode anyway, neither myself. This kind would have scarred everybody, especially younger viewers. I mean, there have been a bunch of banned Nickelodeon episodes, even some of them were actually dark, but this, however, oh, that's a big hell no here. I would never show something like this on television. Shit, if you actually think I'm making this whole thing up right there, look in the link in the description below and you can actually read this episode on a different website. But then again, for some of those who can't actually read or who are not really good at reading, there's a video link in the description below too that you can actually listen to somebody tell it to you. Because I ain't the first to tell this story. I hope I didn't scare you guys too much. Then again, I might have, and I apologize for it. Happy Halloween, everybody. And I'll see you Thursdays at 1 o'clock in the morning, and another Loud House editorial's coming soon.